I'm author Susie Peterson. My co-host over here is author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have a special guest. It is author Mary Jane Owen, aka Michael. But before we start, we're going to be talking about a really interesting genre. Before we start, though, Mike, how is your authorage going throughout the USA?
So we had SpaCon in Hot Springs, Arkansas this past weekend, and we haven't been to it in 5 years. And so this is our sort of return to it. Of course, Hot Springs, a wonderful city, and sold a lot of books. It was really a good con for us. And CJ, because you with your association with Comic Cons, you do get to meet some really nice people, and you do get to meet and cross paths with some very creative people.
Oh, yeah.
And so we kind of cross paths with some of the same people. We've made friends with the lady that was doing the vendor next to us. She was extremely nice. Her and her husband had moved to Hot Springs a couple of years ago. She made dog bandanas, custom-made dog bandanas for anywhere from small dogs, to large dogs like collies and things like that. And she was a really, really nice lady. And I also usually get to meet people who are involved in some sort of with authors' books or publishing or artwork. And so ran across an illustrator who has been illustrating for several years now, primarily children's books, but actually he's doing an illustration for a more adult book, I think, this time around. And he's from Kansas City. He had a booth there in Hot Springs, and of course, met and the lady next to us, the vendor that made the dog bandanas, her husband had a book published. And I'm not a book, but he'd written a book and he never got it published. So again, CJ, you probably run across this all the time. I don't think I've been to a book event, whether it be a Comic Con or a smaller event, where I don't always get approached by people asking questions about writing, about publishing, about books. And so it's always nice to be able to sort of, give them some tips and things like this. And so the gentleman next, whose wife had the dog bandanas, we talked a little bit. Said, you gotta go back and you got to do something to get it finished, to get it published. Otherwise, you'll be spinning your wheels for the next 100 years. A topic we have talked about ad nauseum again here on Book Event. You cannot fix what you don't finish. So anyway, so it was great. And next week or the following week will be Longview Comic Con, the Longview Art Walk. And then we'll be going to the Mississippi Comic Con in Jackson, Mississippi, the third week of June. And we're really looking forward to that. And just to put one more little plug in, our 5-year-old grandson had his pre-K graduation last night, and we were able to go see him. And if you have grandkids, or at some point you have grandkids, take full advantage, spoil them rotten, and enjoy them while you can, because they grow up fast.
Oh, definitely. Awesome. Well, Comic-Con season is starting. We have our first Comic-Con, which I will be bringing my books to, down in Houston, Texas at Kimo, Kauai. That's going to be the weekend of 6th and 7th. I will be there on the 6th only. Hopefully, I will be debuting my first Star Wars cosplay. Super Hubby will be having his as well. Super excited for that. And then on the 18th and 19th of July, we'll be in Longview for the East Texas Comic-Con. We'll be running the floor for, which Mike should be joining us as well. So mark your calendars for that. And then the 29th and 30th down in Lufkin for Piney Woods Comic-Con. I will be running the floor for that, and Mike should be there as well for that one. So mark your calendar for that one as well. So Comic-Con season is in full swing, so make sure to mark your calendar for those as well. Okay, so for today, I'm super excited. You know me, I love unique genres. And when Mary Jane Owen, aka Michael, reached out, we're calling her Michael today, reached out with this unique genre, I was all over it. It is cozy apocalyptic. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how she put the two together, but I am dying to find out. So welcome, Michael. Let's start there.
Thank you so much for having me.
How do you put the two together?
So I actually backed into that genre title. I wrote the story first, and I wrote the story because it lived in my head. And once I wrote the story, I was like, I really like this. And I think other people would like this, but I have no idea how to get it out to them because I don't know what to call this. And obviously it's got zombies in it. It's a zombie story, but it is so different than the other apocalyptic stories that are out there. You know,
I mean, how do you put together sweet end of the world with zombies? I mean, it's like awesome, but how do you put them together?
One of my favorite movies is Shaun of the Dead.
Mhm.
And I've always loved Gilmore Girls. And I feel like those two stories kind of had a baby, and that's what came out in this book. It is very much about the relationships. You know, it's not gory. There are deaths, obviously, but it really is focused on the relationships, and it's focused on kind of, being hopeful and making do and getting by and building something new. And it has this really lovely Hallmark level happy ending,
Okay.
which I have always, as an author, I'm like 15 books in now, and I always kind of struggle with my endings. And that's one of the criticisms that I sometimes get from my readers, is that they feel like my endings are a little bit rushed, or, I like cliffhangers. And this was the first book where like there was no cliffhanger. Like the end of this book felt so solid. And I was like so happy with where I left these characters at the end of the world.
Well, I'm looking at your books, and there are two that kind of stand out right now: Last Mom Standing and First Lady Down. So I like the titles. Can you explain those two books in particular?
So Last Mom Standing is the first in the Cozy Apocalyptic series. And these are really standalones. They actually happen concurrently, not sequentially. They happen over like the same 2-week span of the outbreak. And Last Mom Standing follows a newly divorced mom who ends up moving her kids to this old farmhouse in rural Virginia, right in time for the end of the world. And she has just this cast of quirky neighbors. There are feral chickens roaming the neighborhood. She ends up meeting this really cute Pedro Pascal inspired love interest. It's just it's full of really kind of quirky, warm, real characters and zombies.
And zombies.
And zombies. First Lady Down tells the story of a former First Lady who is actually in France. She's attending a climate conference in Paris. And when the conference is over, she decides to take a little vacation at a cute little inn in the south of France. And once again, she just meets this cast of really quirky characters. I like to think of kind of the vibe of Last Mom Standing is very kind of Gilmore Girls, because it focuses on the relationship between the mom and the kids. The kind of core relationships of First Lady Down is very Golden Girls. They are all older women. The main character is in her 60s. They have kind of a whole different viewpoint. They're all widows, and they're very much strong, independent women who form a very close relationship with each other. And once again, she has a cute little love interest. The inspiration for this story was actually the relationship between Julie Andrews and Hector Alonso's characters in Princess Diaries.
Oh, okay.
And when I love that little romance. I thought that was so cute. And when I started writing this book, I really wanted this main character, Henel, can't speak today. I wanted her to be a Julie Andrews type character, but one of the things that I've accepted is that the Mary Jane Owen pseudonym is very much, these are me. These are all kind of mom type figures. These are all thinly veiled self-inserts. And this character kind of morphed during the writing from Julie Andrews to Dorothy Zbornak from Golden Girls.
Oh, yeah. So are your character? So you mentioned that you like happy endings, and apparently there's a romantic interest as well. So are your zombie characters? And you mentioned Shaun of the Dead also. So are your zombie characters sympathetic characters? Are they ones that they, like with Shaun of the Dead, you might have a romantic relationship? Is that part of what you're writing? Or
so I don't want to spoil the story too much,
Sure.
but I will say that this is a virus, as it is in many zombie stories. They're not really undead; they're infected, and there are people in the stories who do have relationships with people who become infected. So that is something that they deal with.
Interesting. Yeah.
There are side characters. So one of the interesting things about this series is that these stories do take place all at the same time. So when I wrote the first book, I had envisioned it as a standalone, and it became fairly successful. And I had a lot of people reach out and say, well, when are you going to write the next one? And I'm like, but the story's over. Yeah. And I came up with the idea of, well, there are so many other people in this universe who are having a different experience of these same events. So while in the first book, Jane is, figuring things out with her little neighborhood, her ex-husband is in Paris, actually, at the same time as the former first lady, and he ends up at that same little inn. So that's kind of the connection between those two stories. And in the third book, the one that I'm writing now, which is not finished yet, in the third book, the first Jane's love interest, Hector, is a police officer, and his partner is going to be in the third book. So it's all these little connections between the stories. And there are other characters in the first book that definitely, I could write their story. Like, I know what happens to them, and I could write their story.
Wow.
I tend to just kind of have these stories full blown in my head. I know exactly what happens.
So they're separate but slightly connected.
There's overlap. Yeah. They
Very
can
cool.
all be read individually, and they can be read in any order, which is nice.
So they're standalone novels, but they're part of a series.
In the same universe, yeah.
In the same universe, okay.
Now you have other books. Are they also cozy apocalyptic, or are they not? Like, what goes around comes around? What's that?
So that is a series about a woman named Trixie Bugatti, who is a former CIA agent who went into hiding 13 years ago and ends up being outed during a bank robbery and has to go on the run with her 13-year-old daughter, and ends up, so this is the second book in that series. This one is sequential. The first book is Blast from the Past.
I was going to say, pull up Blast from the Past first. Then sorry about that. I
That's
went to
okay.
the folder. Sorry about that. There we go.
Yep. So that's Trixie and Jay, who is her former partner. And when she goes on the run, she has a mafia hitman after her, the police, and Jay, who is currently an FBI agent. And it's, kind of who's going to find her first. And it is very much kind of Amazon soccer mom. And she ends up kind of having ongoing adventures. I actually have finished the third book in that series, but I have not published it yet. It needs one more edit, and then that will be ready to go.
Okay, so this is book one, and then what goes around is book two.
Yes, they get a dog.
Okay. Now, are these cliffhangers, or can these be read separate, or are they like one right after the other?
No, they are sequential. They need to be read. And they do have little cliffhangers at the end, but like the story wraps up and the cliffhanger is just kind of an intro to the next book.
Good. Now, what other series do you have?
Under my real name, I have a science fiction series, a young adult science fiction series, which I have not written the third book for yet. It's on my list. I have a list of like 37 books that
Wow.
I have outlined that I need to write. I am never going to be able to die. It's going to be terrible. I also write middle grade. I have published one book under my middle grade pseudonym, which is Micah Horvath. And that one is called Sharp Tooth. And that is about a little girl who grows up alone in the forest. And she's a vampire, basically. And she meets a little girl in a walled garden who is terminally ill, and they form a deep friendship. I describe it as the little girl from The Ring meets Hermione Granger.
Wow.
Wait a minute, the little girl from The Ring, as in the one with the hair in front of her face?
Yeah, that's
No, that's
That's pretty scary. Yeah, pretty spooky. I guess you get asked these questions a lot because I think we all do. But what got you started on your writing journey? How did that come about?
I have been writing since I was little. Like, I don't remember a time when I was not writing. I won a writing contest when I was in like the 4th grade. I think that's the first time that I had the idea that, like, I am a writer, But I think, like a lot of people, especially of my generation, writing wasn't something that was an option as your career. You needed something else. Writing was a hobby. So it really wasn't until I retired that I went back to writing full time. And I've just been writing pretty much nonstop since then.
Wow.
The first book I published was my sci-fi story that I started in high school in 1989.
Wow.
So,
And what story is that one? Which one's that?
that's called Windless Sky. And that is about a girl. She's a farm girl, and her mom passes away, and she is sent to live with her dad, who is a Marine stationed out on the outer rim of space on a corporate-run space station. That's basically an ore processing plant. And when she gets out there, she finds that it's in transition. The government has basically ceded all of the space to the corporate entities, and the space station is now basically a complete corporate structure, and the Space Marines are now corporate security employees.
Right.
And that does not go well, as you might imagine.
Do you find, because you are reading, you're writing several different cross genres that are maybe science fiction, apocalyptic, a little bit related, but have you found that that when you're trying to establish a market and a following of readers, that if you're writing a book that, for example, isn't apocalypse or isn't science fiction, does that read? How do I put this? Does that have your readership suffer any at all, since they read this book and they expecting you to write a book similar to that next or down the line, so to speak?
Yeah. This is why I use the pseudonyms. This is why every genre is under a different pen name, because I think that absolutely is an issue that authors face. And I am just constitutionally unable to stick to one genre, or even like a real genre. Like, I'm just over here making stuff up. My most recent release is a book about a group of bikers, like a biker gang that says they're not a gang, they're just guys that like bikes. They have a little garage. It's 1975, and they get into trouble, and they end up in big trouble, and they basically die in a fire, but instead of dying, they actually are cursed to inhabit teddy bears, and they sit in a boardwalk claw machine for 50 years watching the world go by. And it picks up 50 years later, where a woman who just moved to town. She's escaping an abusive ex-boyfriend. She finds a magic coin on the boardwalk, and suddenly she notices this claw machine that nobody has looked at in 50 years. And she puts the coin in, and she wins a teddy bear out of the claw machine, which, you know, if you win a teddy bear out of a claw machine, it's definitely cursed. Like, that's just not a thing that really happens. And she takes him home, and he turns into a 6-foot-tall tattooed biker naked in her bed in the middle of the night. So that one's a little different. That is actually the first book that I have published that is a little spicy. And that is one of the reasons that I did do that under a separate pen name.
Yeah, pen name, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever find it difficult trying to rebuild your audience under each of the different pen names? Because that, I would think, would be a challenge.
I think that what I am writing is not like super to market, obviously. And I think that people who are interested in the things that I'm writing kind of find me. Mm-hmm. And it's worked out pretty well. The Mary Jane Owen pen name and the Cozy Apocalyptics and Trixie Bugatti series are definitely my most popular books. The Teddy Bear Shifters series just launched this month, so that's brand new, and that is a brand new pen name. But it's already had a little bit of success. So I think that, you know, my books are really weird, and if that's the kind of thing that you like, you will find them.
That's fair.
Unique is a better word. Yes, unique. No. So
I'm comfortable with weird. It's okay.
So what, having written a number of books, and how many did you say that you've published so far?
I think I've published 12 so far. I have 3 that I'm editing that are pretty much done. And I have 1, well, I guess now it's 4. I just finished a draft of a new book, which is, once again, completely different than anything else I've written. It is actually historical fiction. So we'll see how that goes.
So what, for authors?
Wait. Knowing her uniqueness, what's this one about?
This one is historical naval fiction. It is about one of the last ironclad ships of the British Navy. And so if you've ever seen the movie Master and Commander, with Paul Bettany, and Down Periscope with Kelsey Grammer. Yeah. It's kind of a combination of those two. It is historical.
I love your like unique spin on stuff. Go ahead, keep going. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, it's really kind of cozy. This is once again supposed to be a series. I have it mapped out to be like a 5-book series. But it's really about the relationships between the men on the ship, especially the captain and the first officer, who are very, very different personalities, and them trying to kind of find common ground and understanding that they have very different views, but they actually are compatible because they have the same goal in mind. And the crew are very quirky and, kind of, I really like rich secondary characters. I think that really makes or breaks a story. I want my secondary characters to be somebody's favorite, The last book that I just published, Barely Human, about the teddy bear shifters, the main character's best friend, Quinn, is going to get her own book. It's going to be book 4 in the series, and I cannot wait to write her book because she is such a nut job, and I love her. She's a redhead, so yeah.
I mean, sorry, go ahead, Mike. Didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just.
Go ahead.
So, what for authors, particularly authors, what do you see as the challenges ahead, based on what your experience so far? Is there any challenge you feel that we're maybe coming into or may meet, like for example AI, what challenges do you see in
So-
publishing and writing?
The same challenges that we have had, which is trying to get people to find your book, trying to get your book in front of readers. AI has made it 100 times worse.
Yep.
Because now there are just so many more books, and it is so hard for readers to know, if they've got 1,000 books in front of them, how do they know which ones are good? It's so hard to kind of convey that from your cover, your blurb. You really need people to give you the benefit of the doubt and sit down and read your book. And once you can do that, if you can get somebody to sit down and give you their time to read your book, you can hook them. But there's just so much competition right now for people's attention. And that's just in books. There's also other things competing for people's attention right now in the world at large. And that makes it difficult. I think this is a hard time to be an author. There's a lot going on.
Do you have any advice for somebody who maybe want to get into like apocalyptic? What advice would you give them?
For me, the important thing is to know your story. Mm-hmm. I think that if you are trying to write to market, which is an awesome thing that people should do, even though I don't, this is one of those do as I say, not as I do things. You should definitely, read what's out there. You should, understand what other people in the genre are writing so that, you can kind of slot in, and that helps readers to know what to expect, to have context for your book. If you're like me and you just have these stories in your head, then the most important thing is to know your story. Mm-hmm. And I think that even if your story is not to market, if it's a good story, it will find its readers, and that's what's important.
Definitely. Okay, cool. Do you have a couple minutes left? Is there anything you'd like to add?
There is a prequel to my most recent release. It is called Barely Alive, 1975, and it actually tells the story of the last night that the guys had and kind of what happened to turn them into teddy bears, and that is free. So if you go out to my website, my link tree, there's a link, and if you sign up for the newsletter, I'll send you that's for free. So
very cool.
That is awesome.
Very nice. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Mary Jane. We appreciate you coming out and giving us
Thank you for having me.
Again, you can catch her link tree. It's scrolling down at the bottom, but it's just simply head over to link tree, and it's Mary Jane Owen, MaryJaneOwen. Her socials are also on there as well. I know she's on Facebook. I know she's on Instagram. And I know that she is also on TikTok. You can find her on those 3 places. Make sure to check her out there. Next week, we're going to be talking about, and this is something that we were actually just talking about earlier, knowing your target audience. Why do you need to know it? Are you being too broad in your topics, or are you being too niche in your topics? Make sure to find out, are you hitting your target audience at all? We'll talk about that next week. Same time, same sandbox. Again, thank you for joining us today, Michael. Your stories found fascinating. I know of at least one book I'm going to add to my Kindle. So thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next week. Same time, same sandbox.
Bye.
Bye.